I'll be honest with you. I love the Evo 3D. I love the Photon 4G. Those 4G fast dual-core phones will always have a special place in my heart. But mom, grandma, all those people, they don't really need 4G high-end phones. That's what the Samsung Conquer 4G is for. It's available now on Sprint for $99.99, and it's Sprint's first sub-$100 4G device, and it's packing a pretty decent feature set as well. 1 GHz processor, 3.2 megapixel camera, front-facing camera, but best of all, it has 4G connectivity, and it's $100 Should you get this? Should you go with the Evo 4G, maybe the Evo Shift 4G, which are probably down in that $79.99 range right now, somewhere between $80 and $100. We'll find out in the full review, but first, special thanks to my boys at Best Buy, because when you walk into Best Buy, you'll walk out working. They'll help you set up your email, your web, so when you get this for mom, for grandma, for your girlfriend, whoever, your email, your web, all that good stuff will be set up at Best Buy Mobile. That's enough of that. Let's get into it. Let's see. Is this the phone you should get on Sprint for $100, or should you go with something like the Evo 3G, or the Evo 4G rather, or the Evo Shift 4G? We'll find out in the full review, which starts right now. So here's the Samsung Conquer 4G. It's available now on Sprint, and it has a couple of big benefits going for it. First of all, it's $100. So $99 out the door gets you a 4G smartphone, and yeah, it may not be the highest end in terms of specs. It doesn't have a dual-core processor or an 8-megapixel camera or anything like that, but it's a great, perhaps, first-time smartphone, or perhaps for somebody that's migrating from a feature phone, or somebody that's coming over maybe from a BlackBerry and wants to try the Android platform. It's decent for a lot of different crowds and a lot of different demographics. So you have a couple of benefits. One, $99 with 4G connectivity. I guess that's 1.5 maybe. And two, it's not running Samsung's TouchWiz user interface, and that's a really big win for it, because it has a 1 gigahertz processor, which is the same processor we've seen, even though this one's a Snapdragon processor, and the past Samsung devices have had Hummingbird processors. The TouchWiz UI has kind of bogged it down a little bit. You've seen some lag on devices like the Droid Charge, and on some of the older Galaxy S stuff like the Epic 4G perhaps. You saw a little bit of lag with extended use. You don't really see it here because of the stock build, or nearly stock build, of Android 2.3. It's good to go out of the box, and even though it's decidedly a mid-range device, it's pretty fast in all aspects. So anyway, stock Android build here with the exception of Sprint ID, and you can see that down here in place of the where the browser would be on a stock Android device. And you have the option to choose your ID if you want to. So it is a mid-range device. It fits the bill for Sprint ID, even though kind of Sprint ID doesn't really have a mission anymore because it's on Photon and some of the other high-end devices, which I found kind of interesting. But anyway, 5 home screens on this, so you're going to see a similar arrangement here to a stock Android device. And let's go over the specs pretty quickly here. 1 gigahertz Snapdragon processor, like I said, it's a single-core processor. You've got some physical buttons down here instead of capacitive, but you're running Android 2.3. And then you have a 3.2 megapixel camera on the back. So nothing to write home about in terms of the camera department. You do have that little 3.2 megapixel shooter with a flash as well. And then you have the front-facing camera, so you can use, assuming you're connected to 4G, you can use Fring or some of these video chat applications and chat with your friend. So it has a 1500 milliamp hour battery in the back. 1500 milliamp hours typically isn't that long. I mean, it's kind of a nice little starting point for an Android device. It's where a lot of companies will start in that 15 or 1600 milliamp hour range. But with this, given the smaller display, which is 3.5 inches, by the way, I think you'll be perfectly fine with making it through a day. I know I've been using it in the past couple of days since I received it, and I'm able to make it through a day pretty easily with moderate use. Tweeting, text messaging, making a few phone calls, browsing the Android market, things like that. So, it's not, again, not the highest end device, but it's pretty well spec'd, and for $100 it's a pretty good deal. And I just realized there's still, I think, a sticker right there, but that's okay. Volume rocker over here, lanyard hole over there, camera shortcut button on the right, and then on the top you have your 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, you have your power button, and then, like I said, down at the bottom, or the capacitive buttons, or the physical buttons rather, down here, and you have your micro USB charging port down here, which, yes, I'm cheating and charging it with a BlackBerry cable, but that's okay. Anyway, stock build, like I said, or almost stock build of Android 2.3, and you're going to see those colors, those new color schemes that you see in the Nexus S line and the G2X and some of the other devices that are running stock builds of Android. You can see here the gray and the black. It's kind of changed from stock Android 2.2. And somebody in the comments in one of my last videos said, count how many times he says stock or vanilla. So the count's on, guys. I'm counting on you to keep count, because I'm not keeping count. So you can see here, 5 home screens. Comes typical with stock one, Android 2.3. And then in the menu, you get some Sprint stuff, but otherwise it's pretty plain Jane. You get books, of course, and that's a Google thing. You get Market, which we'll talk about a little bit later, probably in part 2 of the video, a new Android Market. You get My Files, which is a Samsung thing. Quick Video pre-installed, And then some Sprint stuff. You get Sprint Hotspot, Sprint ID, Sprint Mobile Wallet, Sprint Zone, and that's it in terms of the Sprint stuff. And I think most of this can be uninstalled. We'll take a look. But Sprint Hotspot for a $100 device, out of the gate, 4G connectivity, Sprint Hotspot capabilities, I'd say that's a pretty good deal in my book. And let's see here in applications just to see if the Sprint stuff can be uninstalled. Let's go in here. And those are some pretty core Sprint applications like Sprint ID. I'm sure can't be uninstalled. We'll go down here and look and see if we can remove something like Sprint Mobile Wallet. Nope, can't remove that. Sprint Zone, doubt you can remove that either. So all these are kind of the tutorial one you can remove. Sprint ID, obviously, you can't remove. But when you get into some of the ones like Sprint TV, Sprint Navigation, some of the ones that come on the higher end handsets, you can remove those if you desire. Sprint's really listen to their customers with that. But let's jump right in and take a look at the keyboard. Now, this is running a 3.5 inch, or has a 3.5 inch display, rather. So it's on par with the iPhone, not necessarily in terms of resolution, but in terms of overall screen size. So we'll bring up messaging and bring up a new message here, and you can see it comes pre-installed with the Gingerbread keyboard. And there's a little bit of a difference there versus the Android 2.2 keyboard. This keyboard, the keys are a little bit fatter. They're not as rectangular in shape, if you will, not as tall and narrow as they used to be. They're more short and kind of square. And you can see Swipe is pre-installed as well. So if you enjoy Swipe, you can take advantage of Swipe. Never been my thing, but a lot of people do like Swipe, so it's there if you'd like it. Anyway, Gingerbread keyboard here, and you can see, like I said, the keys are a little bit smaller. And you have this orange and black color scheme, which is, and I guess green too, if you count the new area there just above in the notifications bar area. New signal strength indicator, new battery indicator. And I wouldn't really say new because Gingerbread's been out for a while, but you get the idea. So we're going to say the Quick Brown Fox. What are we going to put him in today? What adventure are we going to send him on? The Quick Brown Fox is hanging out in San Francisco. Hanging out in Dan Francisco. So you get the idea, you know, it's a 3.5 inch display, and the Gingerbread keyboard has never really been one of my favorites anyway. I mean, it takes a long time. The learning curve is a couple weeks to get used to the Gingerbread keyboard, but with this smaller 3.5 inch display, it really makes for a challenge trying to type on it. Of course, you can use it in landscape mode as well, and we'll wait for it to transition the quick. And it's a little bit easier, but still, when you look at something like this in comparison to the G2X with a 4-inch display, or perhaps the Photon with a 4.3-inch display, that extra screen real estate really makes a difference when you're working on this type of stuff. So if you're typing long emails, you're somebody that sends emails on your phone, a lot of text messages, this may not be the device for you unless you're interested in using Swipe. So keep that in mind. Play with it in the store if you get a chance on the keyboard front and see if you can really handle it long term, with extended use. But let's take a look at the browser and load up there. Sprint's been having some data issues in the Charlotte area, and actually in a lot of different cities across the U.S. Their data speeds are just abysmal, and you can see even though I have 3G connectivity, we'll see how long it takes to load the page. Sometimes it's right away, and sometimes it takes quite a bit of time. So we'll wait for it to load up here. See what we can do. Wait for it to load. I don't want to waste a lot of camera time, so keep in mind it's 2:05 right now, and I'm going to cut it until it comes up. We're still loading up over here, and you can see it's 2:12 now, so it's taking quite some time. But you can see pinch to zoom, even while loading, is relatively quick. I mean, there's a little bit of a lag, but still, for 1 gigahertz processor, it's definitely acceptable. And we can throw it over here into landscape mode so you can see the quick transitions. Definitely moves pretty quickly. And let's go up here to the logo so you can see pinch to zoom capabilities. So you can see it's not too bad at all. Again, for a mid-range device, it's right on par with some of the other mid-range devices on the market. And that's certainly a good thing. Let's take a look at the Android market here and load it up, because I want to show you the new Android market. It changed a couple weeks ago, and it's still, I don't think it's rolling out anymore. I think it's actually rolled out to all the Android devices, but if you don't have this yet, you should definitely be getting it within at least the next few days, if not sooner. So you can see here's the new Android market, and it's organized by apps, games, books, and movies as well, with some shortcuts. And they do this boxy thing. It reminds me a lot of Microsoft's Metro UI, where the boxes are all different shapes, different sizes, and it's intended to draw the eye in a little bit. So you have the rectangular one here, the shorter one's over here, and they're kind of off-center, like this is more of a square, and so it draws the eye into the particular pictures or whatever it is you're looking at. We'll take a look at apps, and like I said, you can do books and movies as well, which is nice. So we'll go into apps and take a look here, and it's loading up, and of course it's taking its sweet time. And we'll wait for it to load. And then it brings up featured, and then we'll go over here to top paid, and then top free. And you can see YouTube, Facebook for Android, Google Maps, Pandora. I'm just showing you some examples here. We'll go into YouTube and take a look at that and wait for it to load up. and you can see that there it is, and it says open update, and of course the description, what's new. It's going to show some screenshots here when it decides to load, and then of course you have your reviews, your videos, more by Google developer, and then related and market content. So it's a nice organized flow, and you can see what it looks like in landscape as well where it transitions, and you can scroll up and down from there. So it looks really nice, and of course from there you can share, you can search, and then you can go back if you want to. So all in all, they did a really good job with this, and I like the square layout and the stars right there on the main screen. And I like having the ability to easily click and see the screenshots and see the description. So overall, clean looking market and a nice change for Android.